Hey folks, before we start today's discussion, allow me to show you something cool from today's sponsor. You see, Rich Wallets and Hennessy have joined forces for their third annual summer sweepstakes. And what's this? Without spending $1, you can enter on their website for the chance to win a brand new upgraded Hennessy Ford Bronco, or $75,000 if you prefer cash. But for the time being, let's discuss the Rich Wallet. It's not your father's enormous wallet, this. It's small, has space for cash, and can hold up to 12 cards at a time. Additionally, your cards are protected from digital thieves by ARFID blocking materials. Look here at the rich key case that they have. Without that annoying jingle jangle, it can safely hold between 1 to 6 keys. You can save up to 30% when purchasing the Rich Wallet and key case together. You want to participate in the giveaway too? You receive a bonus entry for each dollar you spend on their website. If you use my link rich.com/Masako, you'll get 10 bonus entries. And if you use my code MasakoX, you'll get 10% off as well. If you've ever been considering getting a Ridge, now is the best time. So, listen, this script will be a little bit different from regular ones, as it's going to be a little bit more, personal. I mean, you folks can feel it too, right? Dragon Ball's become a bit of a ghost town, hasn't it? And no, we're not suggesting at all that the franchise is dying or anything like that. It's kind of impossible for Dragon Ball to die. After all, we thought that it was over for about a decade, and that didn't stop the fandom from being very much alive and active. I mean, this is true to this day. Totally not Mark, you know, he's doing his Ultimate Z reviews, for example. Other content creators and fan artists are as active as they've always been. Why does that make us so frustrated? Because, honestly, this might be the most annoying post-stagnation moment of the post-super era, because there is really, realistically, nothing left. Well, back when the anime was around, things were a little bit easier. We could focus on delivering new, fresh stuff every week, making theories, analyzing stuff, etc. Yeah, these were simpler times because we were experiencing new content drops all the time amongst the entire community. Sometimes we were right with the predictions, sometimes laughably wrong, but that was just as good as well. It was nice to praise good stuff with you folks and talk about the stinkers. Even that was fun, because there was something to talk about, something interesting, something to wait for next week too. The wait wasn't that long. You go, oh well, didn't work out this week, let's just try again next time. Then we got to the point when the anime ended. Quite abruptly, if you ask me. We then had to adapt. But thanks to the Broly movies and the original manga arcs, we had plenty of material. In hindsight too, even the most drawn out sections of Mora and Granola felt better than where we are right now. Then Superhero came. And we still really like this movie, don't get us wrong. It seems like, just like Pokemon, Shueisha and Toei hurt themselves due to confusion. There, you have a major entry in the Dragon Ball saga that does decently in the West, being more accessible than Broly was to certain countries, but does 1.5 billion yen less in Japan, which may or may not have something to do with how things are right now. This is all conjecture, theories, observations of course, etc., but Superhero might have affected other projects that they were working on. Hard to say. We know for sure that work on Superhero started before they even finished Broly. And by work, we mean the early stages of pre-production, you know, getting the idea across. And it was hinted in passing that the Triple T was working on multiple projects at the same time relating to Dragon Ball. There is this whole debacle about the web series, but until we see anything official, we shall treat this all as a rumor for the time being, because we're actually getting to the end of 2023 and it was supposedly meant to be promised for 2023, unless it keeps being postponed yet again. And if there are plans for another movie, it's probably being developed right now, but in its early stages. We'd be very lucky to get it within the next 2-3 years. The manga also had a bit of an awkward break, after which we got a very short but generally fun arc about Goten and Trunks that was a prequel to Superhero. And then they chose to adapt Superhero. Now, part of me wonders if the break itself was dictated by the higher-ups, wanting more people in Japan to maybe experience the story, which for us is particularly frustrating, as we dissected the movie last year in great detail. Like, even with the annoying elements of previous sagas, we could make essays discussing the good and the bad, focusing on elements that worked and didn't work. Right now, we got nothing. Okay, well, what's different? Teenage Marin, cool. How they treat Krillin, not cool. There isn't enough fresh material to work on a monthly basis. That's all we got. Maybe discuss about what's happened with Android 18 in the manga, but anyway, don't get us wrong. We are aware that this is strictly our problem, halves and mine. that there are many content creators out there that manage to stay fresh even at the most dead times of the franchise. It just stinks when your inspiration is pretty reactionary, that you can't be proactive. Again, there are theories that they are preparing something, pardon the pun, super for the 100th chapter, and that we might get some news this year about what's going to be happening, but still, this is the most mental gymnastics that we've ever had to do with coming up with new material, discussion ideas, since, well, we started working on them. We're not saying that doom and gloom is upon us, that we're gonna give up, that the franchise is gone and everything that comes up will be bad. Heck, for some of you, everything that's been released post-Z is not your cup of tea, and are still active members of the community to this day regardless. There's plenty of Dragon Ball to feed to us, but it's just that we kind of miss this feeling of novelty, you know? The sad thing is that we kind of chose to ignore one big aspect of modern Dragon Ball, which is the hero's promotional anime, which theoretically is a band-aid successor to the original Super anime, but very few people care really. Sometimes we can toss a trivia question from the show into it and that's it. It's just not very good, not even in an entertaining way. But of course, it does have its moments, and especially when they get a good animator on it. But it's usually just like a single sequence in an entire episode of some of the most beloved content that this franchise has seen to date. Okay, maybe the Yamcha Vidro mini arc, that's kind of cute. But in a way, it can be seen as a continuation, especially if you are Tadayoshi Yamamuro, it seems. Which takes us to our next point, the weird treatment of the manga original sagas. They seem to be not really acknowledged by the rest of the Dragon Ball media, which is super weird. I don't think I've seen anything to do with Mora or Granola in Super Dragon Ball Heroes. As for a while, it's been the main source of super content that you could digest the manga. Why not include them? And love him or hate him, Toyotaro, flawed as he is, was acknowledged by Toriyama as his, well, understudy and successor. There are many flawed or questionable choices had, but overall, Mora and Granola could really shine with some really minor tweaks that fit in within the portfolio of the anime staff. There's plenty to improve upon, and an animated version could be great. And yet, we can only interact with the contents and ideas that have been introduced by them within the constraints of the manga itself. There's been no mention of adaptations or even including them in anything else. No video game appearances, no mention in Heroes, not even in passing. And what's even weirder is that there's no official merchandise for any of these characters. You can get official merchandise for some pretty obscure characters from A to Z. Super, some of the major Tournament of Power characters still hardly have any official merchandise representation. And when you search for any Moro figures, you find maybe this statuette. It's not awful, but you can clearly see it's not official. So why are the companies acting so weird then? It's really hard to say, and honestly, we're not even trying to fully understand it due to cultural and linguistic barriers. Still, the weird state of current Dragon Ball is connected to the fragmentation of content and the mysterious lack of a coherent vision. And let's be clear, not all media needs it. And it's fine if you just get a smaller tale from time to time, but for a media juggernaut such as Dragon Ball, it's very odd how little we're getting overall, especially because it's really easy to get people talking. Whenever we get any new announcements, the fandom burns in like a good pile of dry leaves, like all of the stuff to do with Budokai Tenkaichi 4. It's really hard to kill Dragon Ball, and I don't think we're quite there yet, especially with the creatives having plans for both of the Saiyans and Black Frieza, which will need to be addressed in other media one way or another. You can't just keep it to the manga. But still, will we get stuff like Ultra Ego in the animation? Hopefully, right? It's certainly interesting enough to delve deeper into. Now, okay, there's another element in the room that we haven't talked about yet. The recent Dragon Ball frustration that we haven't really talked about yet in this little mini rant video, Sandland. And look, it's unfair to blame Sandland's animation and game for the lack of Dragon Ball content. It's quoted as Toriyama's personal favourite work. Mind you, the man changes his opinions pretty quickly, but who doesn't? And it's a very charming story. It's a nice change of pace from a bloated piece of media like Dragon Ball, and something we've recommended ourselves on quite a few occasions. At the same time, it's kind of odd that it's getting pushed so hard on Dragon Ball related occasions. Goku Day, they promote Sandland. It seems like a big troll. Again, maybe this is just our Western perspective just skewing the facts, and we forgot that in Japan, Toriyama is more than just a Dragon Ball guy. If anything, Dragon Ball just happened to an already established author. He could have just retired after Slump, but no. He did another thing and that just so happened to be good as well. And to be fair, he is responsible for much, much more than the Adventures of Goku and Co., which he doesn't consider to be his best work. I mean, look up there, the manga theatre. That's a really good example of his other sort of works. Not that he hates Dragon Ball or anything, especially now that he seems more involved with the lore than ever. But if you ever read interviews with the man, it's kind of hard to deny that he does treat Dragon Ball as one of his works, not his main work, not the core and heart of his personality. But I don't think that is something that the audience west of Japan fully understand. And thusly, we're worried that this may lead to some weird resentment towards all the Sandland goodness that we are getting. And we really, really don't want that to happen, because this story is worth being enjoyed, and we'd really like to cover it on the channel once the movie drops. But to be brutally honest, it's always easier to release stuff when people care. Again, the purpose behind this particular script is that when we failed to find any inspiration in new Dragon Ball content, we were looking for it in our frustration. We still greatly enjoy and appreciate the franchise, it's just been challenging for the last few months. Yes, of course, it's a bit of a first world problem, we don't deny that, but hey, we thought that learning about this sort of struggle from our perspective could be more interesting than, you know, us forcing ourselves to make a topic that we really couldn't get fully into. At the end of the day, we're still here. And we really hope that by the time this video is released on the channel, we'll know something more about the future of Dragon Ball. We can understand the fear of leaks by studios, as in the modern world they are basically unavoidable. It happens. And they've been floating around the internet like crazy, especially with Superhero. But it would be nice if they were at the stage where they're saying, we're thinking about making a series, or we're actively making one. Because it takes a ton of time and work, and while we would love to see something new, nobody wants a repeat of the first episode of Super, where they announced it in April 2015, and then came out with the first episode 3 months later. It was too far, too fast, too soon. Give people the means and funds to work with dignity. We just need minimal updates on where we're currently standing, just to know that we're in the loop. I think that would also help the general fandom adjust its expectations in terms of timeframes. In the meantime, if you've made it this far into the video, thanks for staying by with us on this little ranty journey of ours. We really don't like to complain all that much, and knowing us, you know, we really prefer to keep a positive outlook on things. But at the same time, there are just so many little things that we just don't understand from both artistic and business points of views that we just had to vent about. And we've been in this business long enough that we decided to just air out our thoughts and concerns. And you know what? That's a nice idea for the comments for this one. Share your frustrations related to the Dragon Ball franchise. Just keep it civil, okay? And respect other people's opinions. Remember, you don't have to agree with us. We're just some talking heads on the internet trying to bring you some fun in your free time. Take care, and we'll catch you later. Hopefully with a more upbeat script.